Oh, we're back. Okay, I've lost my hat, but I've got a sort of warmer hat now, so that's fine. Back with a good ship practice, speaking to another guest today. So I'll let our guests introduce themselves and tell us something about where they are right now. Neil?
Yeah, sure. My name is Neil Thompson. I'm an associate professor of entrepreneurship and organization studies at the Vrije Universiteit, Amsterdam.
Cool. And can you say a little bit about some of the research that you do, Neil?
So I do research in entrepreneurship studies, which is kind of an aspect of organization studies that looks at kind of the processes of creating new organization. And we break this down into like different elements of a process. So you might look at the idea creation or the initial team getting together, or how they start to organize together, how they might get resources, et cetera, depending on what they're trying to do. But it's all about making novelty and new organization present in the already organized world.
I'll hand over to our resident pirate for the next question. Natalia?
Hi, Neil. So as a pirate, I'm really interested in precious ideas. But before that, I want to ask you how and when, or when and how did you first encounter practice theory?
During my PhD here in the Netherlands, I had a reading group, and we were just reading different texts, and we read Anthony Giddens' work, and that was my first introduction, and that was really eye-opening for me, because at the time I was trying to study how these entrepreneurs, organize things on the ground level in the sustainable energy sector, but also trying to understand like the global politics and the marketplaces. And so you have all these structures, they kind of are explanatory. Then you have all of these individual people with their own subjectivities, and the literature was quite structuralist in a way, structure, agency, quite separate in their analysis. And when I read Giddens, it was really mind-blowing about how you can have this duality. And that kind of set me on this practice theory track. That was my original interest.
And was there something else that attracted you to practice theory?
Well, later on, we started at my university this entrepreneurship as practice community, and it's gone on. We have eight conferences now, so it's been going on for about 8 or 9 years. We have 300 people, 400 people on the mailing list, so it's kind of grown. And we started it here in Amsterdam, and the reason was that we really liked this approach, and nobody was doing this in entrepreneurship studies. So we invited some scholars like Davida Nicolini, and Ted Shatsky came for one conference, and some people that you know of came over to give us introductions and lectures about practice theory, and then we all started to build a community around. And in my own research, I've used ethnomethodological approaches to practice theory, but scholars in this area use all different forms of practice theories in different ways to study entrepreneurship phenomena. And it's grown to quite a big community, and so I'm very happy about that.
Cool. So we already know that you are part of a very big tribe, but that's in a moment. My last question would be, what practice theoretical ideas are you currently working with?
I'm still using ethnomethodology, conversation analysis, or multimodal. I've been doing a lot of things with video ethnography, which is quite different for the types of studies that entrepreneurship scholars usually do. Traditionally, it's kind of a discipline that comes from economics and from psychology, so the methods are quite different there. And here, we're using ethnographic and video ethnographic to study. I've been doing research about initial idea creation, so how partners get together and then they come up with ideas for novelty or new organization. So we study this, and we study the conversation and their idea creation, which is quite different than the psychological cognitive view of creativity.
Interesting. Thank you. Elizabeth?
Yes. Well, you can see from my hat that I'm an anthropologist today, and interested in tribes and who you hang out with and whether you work on your own. But first, I want to push on a bit with Natalia's question. I mean, she asked what ideas were you working with from practice theory, and you talked about ethnomethodology, which is a kind of method. So I'd like to go back and learn a bit more about which concepts from practice theory are useful, because there's loads of them, obviously. There's lots of different kinds of practice theory as well, which have been useful in thinking about entrepreneurship.
In my own studies, because I could for other people, but for myself, ethnomethodological studies are really helpful because you really study the ethno-method, so how people are making sense for each other in the moment, and what kind of.
So is it the focus on the doing then? That's the distinctive feature.
It's focused on the doing, but with the idea that in conversation, people also use conversational practices.
Mm-hmm.
And when we study multiple teams, we can see, at least in our location, a lot of commonalities in how people are interacting with each other when they're creating new ideas and coming to agreements or debating things. So you look at really the communication practices that people are doing. Not just within one team, of course, but we look at multiple teams. So we try to get a sense of how people are developing new ideas through these communication practices. So then we draw a lot on conversation analysis types of concepts like turn taking and sequence analysis. And in my own studies, we find practices like gist and upshot are communication practices that people use a lot when they're creating new ideas.
Okay.
So
it's
specific
people basically, and then their practices. That's where you're going.
Yeah.
I'm really interested. I told you I was interested in tribes. So you're sitting in the spring or summer somewhere outside on your own, which looks very, very attractive. But you've also mentioned a mailing list of 300 other people. So do you feel that you belong to a particular tribe or group?
Yeah, I think this entrepreneurship as practice community is something that I belong to. It's still rather niche within this huge area of entrepreneurship scholarship, which is quite large around the world. Yeah. So the way we're doing scholarship is a little bit different. And like I said, Karen Verdown and myself and Bill Gartner kind of kicked off this community, and it's grown over time. And we have these conferences every year and a lot of online events and interviews and things like that. So we're quite active. Also methods. We do a lot of methods workshops for PhD students and things. And so, yeah, it's grown quite a bit, and we're really happy about that. So I do feel a part of this because I was helping to create such a community.
Great. So one of the ideas of this ship is also to connect communities, and we'd be really keen to know where you would like to go, which might be outside your own community. You've got the whole map of practice, people, interests at your disposal. So where'd you like us to go next? Who should we meet?
So I was taking a look at the map today, and there's a lot of overlap with what we do in entrepreneurship studies with design studies or design research, because what entrepreneurs are doing are kind of designing organizations that aren't yet real. They're in the process of kind of putting it together, and a lot of things can go wrong, or they have to redesign things and revisit their ideas. So I found somebody in the Netherlands, Dirk Kloos van Amstel. He is a design researcher. He says design study research. I don't know him. In a different part of the Netherlands, and it just sounds really interesting what he's doing. And
whereabouts do you know? Because we need to get there by boat. That's our only concern. But we probably can in the Netherlands.
I think he's in Maastricht.
Oh, easy, no problem. Great. We'll try that. And also, we'd like a souvenir from our visit to Amsterdam and to you. Have you got anything to give us?
I have a souvenir. Hold on real quick. Let me grab it.
Okay.
All right. I appear. And I have a Dutch tulip, because it is now tulip season in the Netherlands, and we are the tulip capital of the world, and there's tulips everywhere, and they cost nothing. So they're here.
It really is spring. That's great to look forward to.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Neil.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Neil.
You're welcome.